Today we have had the Yarbo for about 4 months. We've been mowing with it all summer, middle of August. So we thought we'd give an update about some of the hurdles, some of the learnings, living with a robotic lawnmower. Now, as we talked about in our previous video, and I'm gonna put a link here, we talk all about setting it up. We talk about the data center. We talk about everything. Having said that, we'd only used it a few weeks in that video. This is gonna give you everything you need to know about owning a lawnmower, a Yarbo lawnmower. Let me start by saying Yarbo did send me this for free. Having said that, if you follow any of my other reviews, we're very honest, we're very transparent, and I was majorly a skeptic about anything like this. In my head, I said this would never take the place of my riding 60-inch ride-on zero-turn lawnmower. We're gonna do another video talking all about, can this actually replace your normal ride-on zero-turn whatever lawnmower? Maybe, but today we're gonna talk about all the little ins and outs about a Yarbo. So if you're thinking about buying this for your yard, this is the video to watch. All right, to start off, we're gonna talk about some of the installation hurdles we had, some of the changes I made. We're gonna talk about where the docking station can go, where the data center should go, and some things that we learned. So if you're looking to buy it, this might save you some time. Now, let's talk about the setup we've got right here, right now. Now the Yarbo lives outside. Man, I couldn't wrap my head around this. I wanted to bring it in my garage every day and keep it nice and pristine. I'm gonna get into that in a second. It's definitely not. But it's designed to live outside. Now our Yarbo is right now sitting on its charging station. In the manual it says you're supposed to have this 7 foot by 7 foot and this whole area open around it in order to have this area to charge. So we really struggled with finding a spot to put the charging dock. But as you can see, this area right here is pretty much the size of the actual unit itself. And it does a pretty good, well, it does a great job of getting back to its charger when it's done. I have never had to manually drive it back, put it back. It makes it home. Now there are a couple things that you'll notice, we'll talk about in a second, that I think it could be fixed. So anyway, when you're looking for that location to put your charger, you can make it work here. It'll make its way back. So I know I struggled with that one. Let's talk about the data center. Now when you go to install your data center, it says on there it needs an open 120 view, clear view to the sky. And also on your app, it shows you the signal strength, excellent, weak, intermediate, poor, whatever the terminology is. Now, if you look at my previous video, which we already posted a link for, we put my data center in the attic. I really wanted to keep it inside. I wanted to keep it nice and clean and you wouldn't see it. Now when we mounted it in the attic, everything on my app said excellent. I had excellent GPS reception. Everything was excellent. It was all off the charts according to the app. Now, if you looked at my first video, I had some GPS issues. I had where it would go under an area and it would lose GPS, sometimes for 10, 15 minutes, then it would gain GPS again and it would start mowing again. Now, these do have GPS antennas built right on the rover itself. So my understanding was, well, it's GPS. As soon as it's getting under these trees, it's losing the GPS, so it's got to find it again. Even though my data center said excellent GPS signal, there was still a connection between this and your data center. So one thing you need to know, GPS is really good as far as, well, GPS, right? When you're driving in your car, it's good to 3 or 4 feet, maybe it's even 10 feet, I don't know. Imagine GPS on this good to 3 or 4 feet. That would never work. You're never gonna go around flower beds. You're never gonna get that precision. So there's other technology that the data center takes that information and talks back to the rover. So while the data center said GPS was excellent, its communication through the attic back to the rover was not excellent. And through a long series of figuring it out, I finally moved the data center and said, I'm gonna start over, I'm gonna see what the results are. I'm not gonna lie, the results were really good when I put the data center outside, and it fixed pretty much all of my GPS issues. It's been non-issue ever since. If you follow the directions, it says it should be outside. Now, if you're on any of these Facebook pages, other people have put them in their attic with successful results. All these situations, I'm sure, are going to vary depending on your construction, your home, etc., etc. I ended up putting my data center outside, fixed all GPS issues. So there's that. Let's talk about some of the issues that I've seen on the actual core unit itself. So when these things ship, this is your GPS. You've got two GPS antennas here basically. These just unscrew. When it ships with a taller mount on it. Now my understanding is the taller mount is designed for when this is a snowblower up front and snow builds up over the core and you want the antennas to kind of be able to protrude over the top of the snow. Now, I didn't put my short ones on when it came from the factory. I wasn't quite 100% sure, and I was having GPS issues, which were solved with the data center moving. So anyway, I did have a tree branch under a low pine tree come over, and it knocked this antenna off, and it broke the mount. Now, to be fair, that is a common issue, and I did have the tall one on. It should have been the short one, but no questions asked. Yarbo not only sent me one mount, but two mounts, and all the hardware, everything I need to replace it. Took me 5 minutes to replace. Yarbo has been really good. If you're looking at buying one of these, check out the Facebook pages on obviously Facebook and any of the other forums. There's a lot of great information. Now, having said that, there's also a lot of information that feels negative. My personal experience is that what you're seeing negative-wise can, for the most part, be blamed on user error, and I'll talk about some of these things that I'm seeing in a second. But my issues or any of my things I've had have been resolved. Yarbo is really, really good about listening to their customers, and if you follow these authentic Yarbo pages, you'll see suggestions. And what's cool is you'll see some of these suggestions actually land on the following update. So I'm on my third, maybe second software update. I don't have to do anything. The data center gets updated. The Yarbo core gets updated all over the air. Pretty much, I didn't even know it happened. I actually went and looked, and oh, it's been updated. So when these updates come through, there's new features, or you'll see the Yarbo act a little differently than it did before. Usually always for the good. They listen to their customers. Maybe you as a customer have an obstacle or a situation in your yard that Yarbo didn't have, and enough people have it, and they're figuring out different features they can add, and they are actually putting them in place. So I gotta give Yarbo credit where credit is due, because they are listening to their customers. So they are coming up with a flexible mount. So if this thing does hit a tree branch or something, it'll flex. So that is something that has been fixed. So I want to talk about maintenance. What have I had to do over the course of the couple months owning this thing, and what are some of the hurdles I've had? I did have it go off into a flower bed once. I do have some areas that it doesn't cut perfectly. I don't necessarily blame Yarbo, and we're going to talk everything about some of these hurdles I have and some of the new little nuances in robotic lawn mowing. So let's talk first a little bit about the core itself, maintenance, and what to expect here after you've owned it for a few months. So right there is where I keep the charging station. So it does live outside. Now, because it lives outside, I don't know, I'm kind of anal. Well, this wouldn't show it, but I'm trying to give it a true test here. This thing is actually filthy. It needs to be washed. But the yellow isn't the yellow it used to be. This used to be a vivid yellow. I did put some UV protectant spray on it. It's helped a little bit, but if you want to keep it nice when you first get it, I would highly suggest doing something like that. So let's talk a little bit about maintenance. Tracks, I've really done nothing to. Now, I say that, the track itself I've done nothing to. You do have to grease in here. There's a specific kind of grease, and you have to grease the tracks every couple weeks. I probably haven't done it as often as I need to. When it feels a little creaky, I clean this out and I grease the track. Now, having said that, I would say every couple weeks on my normal ride-on lawnmower, I would get underneath my deck and I would grease the zerks there too. Maybe not every couple weeks, but at least clean the deck out every couple weeks. So to me, that's kind of a wash. I actually spend less time greasing the Yarbo than I do cleaning the deck. But let's talk about a couple other things. This hasn't been an issue for me, but I could foresee over the long term this boot potentially being a damage point. Maybe it'll rip. It does get a lot of wear and tear on the sun. I've been spraying mine with like a 303 or a protectant just to kind of keep it from dry rotting, if you will. But that, I think, will be something long-term. I'm not sure if you don't take care of that, what that'll look like. Short of that, I've done nothing else. You know, I wipe it down every once in a while. We just use it, and that's it. That's what it looks like. It's been outside since, well, pretty much since I got it. So let's talk about underneath the deck. So under the deck, you've got a blade guard here, a blade guard here. I see a lot of comments, people talking about broken discs, and various, you know, things getting caught under here. I've never removed this, and I've never had a broken disc. I am a believer that if your yard is basically stick-free, debris-free, you really shouldn't see any of these issues. So if you got a bunch of sticks in your yard, well, guess what? You would damage the blades on your normal mower too. Now, this is not the Pro version. The Pro version actually has two real style working lawnmower blades, and these are more like razor blades, if you will. So general maintenance under here has been pretty straightforward. I mean, I just cut this morning, and well, you wouldn't know. I mean, it's not like the deck is full of anything, and it's pretty clean. Now, the only thing I have done is I have replaced the blades. Now, keep in mind, the blades are two-sided, so it only cuts from one side when it's cutting. So you basically, instead of replacing them the first time, you can flip them over. So you do get basically a two-time use out of each of the blades. Now, there is a duration on the blades. I've only rotated the blades over once, so probably could do it again. The blades are fairly inexpensive, and they're super easy to replace. Way easier than replacing your blades on your actual ride-on mower. So really straightforward underneath the deck. Now, from a longevity standpoint, the one thing I would like to see is, I don't see any grease fittings on these ball bearing wheels. I would like to see grease fittings on these. I think that would make these casters being greasable, I think would make probably longevity a little better, right? But under here, very basic, and it just works. It does a nice job. Now, inside the core where the magic happens, this is where you plug in your mower. You got a speaker in there. You know, they say not to hose this thing out. So every once in a while, I honestly just take my leaf blower and I blow it out. And as you can see, I am due for that. But that is, this is real, right? That's it. That's what I've done. So let's talk about the data center for a second. First video, had the data center inside. Quickly realized it's not the answer, okay? So I'm gonna show you where I put it, and I'll give you some tips on the data center. Now, it's not perfect and it's not ideal, and I'll probably end up cleaning it up, but I already have this antenna on the side of my house, which is on the back corner of my house. You really don't see it from anywhere except my patio, which is not the end of the world. My goal is to probably get that antenna out and put the antenna in my attic, and then the data center will be the only thing mounted there. But the data center, as you can see, it does have a clear view to the sky. And ironically enough, the data center lives directly above where my charging pad is. So I do get pretty good GPS. Most people do not get GPS that close to the house. If you don't get GPS all the time when it's parked on the pad, you really can't schedule the Yarbo to go out and do its thing without you interacting. So the only way you could work around it is to drive it off the pad manually. Remotely, you can still do that. You can turn on cameras and drive it off the pad. Once it's out about 10, 15 feet, gets GPS, and then you can send it out. Now, personally, I don't schedule the mowing for me, so it's not an issue. Having said that, I think it's the proximity to that data center and everything else I have. I do get GPS within that 2 feet of my house. Now let's talk about another. This one I think Yarbo could work on, and this one I will chalk up to as I'll deal with it because I'm not cutting the grass. But check this out. So when Yarbo goes back home, it goes through this algorithm, and what I wish it would do is I wish it would just kind of back itself right in to the charging station. Now it doesn't. What it does is it pulls in forward, then it backs out, and then it does this jockey right here, and it does this whole do-si-do thing, and then backs into the charging station. So as you can see, I've got this area here. I mean, I'm down to dirt. I've got dead grass. It's really beat up the yard right here in front of the charging station. Now, is it earth-shattering? No, but I do like my yard looking nice. So it kind of sucks that it's all tore up. I think Yarbo could make they could easily make it do a 3-point turn, or could be more gentle. There's nothing gentle about it backing into this charging station. That's one negative thing that kind of drives me crazy. But again, I'm not cutting the grass, so I guess I'll deal with that part. Here's another little quirk that you're gonna find. So I have my yard broke down to 3 or 4 different segments. I've got my backyard, which is over here. I've got a side yard, which runs down this, well, the side of the driveway over there. And then I have my front yard, which is out front. So I've got it into 3 sections, 1, 2, 3 up front. Now, when you send the Yarbo out to do section 1, 2, or 3, it has to have a path. So right now, when it comes out of the charging station, it can come out of charging station and come right into the backyard. It doesn't need a path, it knows exactly where to go. Well, I take that back. There is a path, if you will, programmed from there, the charging station, to this zone. But in order for it to go from zone 1 to 2 or to 3, you have to set a path. And as you see in the image here, I've got a pathway set just between the 2 zones, which is on that side of the house. But here's the frustrating part. Every time it goes to a path, a new zone, it always takes the same path. So I don't know if you're gonna see it on camera here, but you see this path here, it always takes the same exact path. So over the course of time of mowing a few times a week, it does mat that area down. You do have, I don't know if ruts is the right term, but maybe this way you can see better. Yeah, that's better. You can see the path, right? It mowed today, so it came through here, and it's all in here, look at. And this is where it turns. You can see I've got dead grass in that area. It makes this 90-degree turn right here and then goes forward. I wish there was like a randomized path it would take, and not always, or you could do multiple paths and have it pick a few, because it's really hard when it's going to the charging station, and it's really hard on the grass when it goes to the other paths. I'm nitpicking this, guys. I'm totally nitpicking this thing, but these are things you might want to pay attention to. How does it cut? How does it do against flower beds? How does it do against edges and all that kind of stuff? Don't mind the weeds. We've actually not even weeded because Yarbo's been doing the hard work. So if you look here, I've got a section here that's not cut. You can see it, right? Now let's be fair. My riding lawnmower, as I would come through here, I can't get even that close. Now again, I gotta get in here with the weed whacker. But you can see it's not perfectly up to that edge. This is something that may be able to program through. To be fair, there are ways you can do what they call a dead end, and there are other tolerances I can play with that I haven't quite learned. Having said that, it really doesn't cut any less grass than I would cut on my riding lawnmower. So you still got to come back and clean it up. Now, I also have not used the trim edger system that they have either. So that may be a result there, or that may be an answer, I should say, there. Okay, so coming up front here. Now, this is a concern I had, that I think once I get the flexible antennas, so you'll see an area here that hasn't been cut. But I tried to keep the Yarbo away from those trees a little bit, and well, this tree's got to come down. That's a whole nother issue. But these trees are really hard, and my concern was with those antennas. Am I going to break an antenna off? So by my design, I kind of have it pulled back a little bit from these trees because of that. Now, when you set your Yarbo to go, you can set a perimeter, and you can pull it back 6 or 8 inches or 0 inches. And I think I need to tighten my perimeter up. So again, I think this is a programming thing, but it is something. So you can see how far, it's almost a full Yarbo length out from the trees. It could definitely get closer. That is something I think I can work through with programming. So let's talk about the quality of the cut. Guys, when it comes to stripes, this thing lays better stripes than any mower I've ever had. But mind you, the one I have is not the Pro model, and I'm really curious to try the Pro model and talk about quality of the cut. But one thing I want to point out here is I feel that it does a better job cutting the grass shorter than it does longer. So we've had a lot of heat here, so I've been keeping my grass longer than I normally would because of the lack of rain. Now, the grass has gotten thick because in the last 2 days we've had a lot of rain and the grass kind of thickened up. Now, when the grass is thick and you cut it long, I don't feel it does quite a nice job, as nice of a job as it does when it's shorter. And the reason I feel that is being it doesn't have the traditional lift of a regular lawnmower, it kind of mats down on the tracks a little bit because it's not pulling up. Like, you don't have that vacuum, if you will, from a regular traditional lawnmower. Now, maybe the Pro model has that with the more traditional blades. Now, I will say, when I keep the grass a little shorter, it looks like a golf course. But as you can see, the way it is now, a little longer, it's not quite even, and you almost kind of got to cut it twice. Now, I'm going to say this with two things in mind. I don't cut it twice in one day. It cuts it all in one day. In fact, it did the whole front yard in 2.5 hours today. Having said that, I also have not tried doing it in full slow mode. I do read that the quality of the cut goes up significantly in slower speed. I'm in like medium mode right now. So to be fair, if I were to slow the speed down, I should actually come back with those results. Now, does it look bad? No. But does it look much better when you cut it shorter? Yes, I think Yarbo does a really good job maintaining it at a shorter height than it does longer. Just my opinion. Again, neither are bad, but it's something you should point out. Now, the video is likely not going to show this very well, but there is a pretty good gully here, if you will. And Yarbo does say, I think it's 30-degree slope. So, I mean, I've got quite a bit of hill here, and it does navigate, whether it's going this way or this way, it does navigate this without a problem. And it's pretty gentle on it down here as well. Let me show you one spot I've got on my yard that is kind of difficult for me to program with the Yarbo. All right, so I got this area right here. I've got this little library we've built. I've got these electrical cable panels. There's a lot of stuff that comes on right here. So I kind of got it blocked off, and this area is difficult to navigate. So again, this turns into a programming thing, and I'm pretty sure with the right programming, I can do some dead ends in here. Again, learning how to program the Yarbo will probably solve most of the issues. So I've navigated it pretty well, and to be fair, I've got it down to an area where I can still just hit with my string trimmer. So it does work, but you're gonna have to spend some time programming it. Once you get it programmed, it's pretty awesome. All right, let's talk about driveways and obstacle avoidance. There are some issues I've had with obstacle avoidance. I have mine turned down to minimal contact, which means it's actually got to bump into something before it goes around it. There are some you can do where it uses the cameras and it'll avoid it. The problem is if your grass isn't perfectly flat and the mower kind of dips into a grass, it can actually think that dip is an obstacle. And so what you want to do is set it to minimal avoidance, so it has to actually bump into something. Now, everything's different. Now, I am seeing people saying, the Yarbo went underneath my car and it should have detected my car. Well, for one, as soon as you send your Yarbo out, it actually tells you, are there any obstacles in your yard? And you have to hit no, proceed. That's on you. Now, I have no pathways. I have nothing on my driveway. My driveway is not in any of the maps. It's not a no-go zone. It's nothing. It's not in any of the maps. I've got it all mapped around the driveway. So doing that, my Yarbo has never as much as set a track on the driveway. So these comments you're seeing where Yarbo is hit a car or done something, again, in my opinion, that one's definitely a user error. Never has it been on my driveway. Not an issue. Now let's talk about flower beds and it falling off into a flower bed, because this is one thing that haven't quite dialed in perfectly yet. So it's probably hard to tell, but I do like this nice clean edge. And again, I need to weed whack. I need to come through here and hit this and clean it up. But you can kind of see I've got this strip here that's not cut. So I kind of run this balance. Do you push the Yarbo mower to the edge and try and get it all? So right now you can see it pulls back a couple inches on the program. Again, you can change the program. So there's this balance with when you're mapping out, you want to keep in mind, do you map it right against the edge, knowing it's going to come up to it and set that to 0? Or do you map it with a 6 or 8 inch overlap, and then you're going to come back and clean up? So a lot of this, again, is in the programming. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention to. I will show you one thing that I think Yarbo could have changed a little differently that might have fixed this overlap. Now, if your grass and your mulch are kind of at the same plane, you know, my mulch is here, my grass is here, so that's where it's different for me. But if your grass and mulch are the same plane, when you're mapping it out, just put that track right in the mulch and let it cut. For me, I can't really put that track right in the mulch because there's a few spots where it's probably deep enough it might not get out. Again, most of these issues could be handled with programming, and I'm also saying most of these issues, but these are issues saying that you never have to come back with a string trimmer, you never have to come back with a mower. So even so, I come back once a month compared to twice a week. Still a win. But I'm gonna show you something I think that would have been cool. So what I think would have been awesome, and it kind of looks like it, but is if you've got the track and track there, right? Is if the deck and cutting area came out a little wider than the track, and maybe those casters were still in more. You could have had all of your drive system still on the yard, but the cutting edge could have come over and could have come over into the flower beds to manage a little more of the of that edge, if you will. Guys, overall, this thing is awesome. I truly have not cut the grass since we've owned it. I've gone through and weed whacked. I have no experience with the weed trimmer, so maybe that solves a lot of these issues we talked about. My maintenance, short of greasing the tracks and occasionally looking under this thing to find that there's nothing wrong, has been 0. It goes back, it charges, it does its thing. My couple gripes are, and probably could be fixed easily in the programming, is this algorithm it does here when it goes back to charge, or the paths it takes to get to the other locations. Everything about the app I think is great. You can get real time. You can see exactly where it's mowing, what it's doing, how much time is left, the battery charge. I mean, everything you can do from your phone. We literally were on a cruise in the middle of the Caribbean, and I sent this thing out to cut my grass while I wasn't home. Previously, I'm asking the neighbor kid, and I'm paying him $50, $100 to come cut my grass, or I'm coming home to a jungle of a yard, and I don't have to do that anymore. We literally spend time on the water, as you see on our other videos here, jet skiing, whatever. We're doing other things instead of sitting here mowing the grass, and it's awesome. Highly, highly suggest it. I love how Yarbo really listens to their customers, and they actually make changes and act on what their customers are suggesting. So I don't know if at the time you're watching this, there is a 5-year free warranty you're getting. Guys, my Hustler mower, which I spent about $6,000 on, had broken pump brackets, like main frame chassis brackets broke that I had to replace. It was a known issue from Hustler, and Hustler decided to tell me, sorry, the brackets are $200, and if you want us to do it, take it to your local dealer, and it's 8 hours worth of labor. My son and I had to do it in our garage. So when it comes to even like longevity and what does it look like, a 5-year warranty is huge. Again, your riding mower you buy anywhere is not going to come with a 5-year warranty. So that in itself is huge. Maintenance has been great. Sure, what does the battery look like in 3 or 4 years? I don't know. I guess it's a risk you can take. Pricing this thing out, I mean, price this out. Price this and a snowblower out. I mean, a snowblower in itself is a couple $1,000s, and then what's your time worth? So, guys, click the link below. You can save a couple bucks. You can help the channel. Again, they did give us this to do the review on. I think what you can tell is we're very, very transparent about how we review things and how we suggest it to our audience or friends. Everywhere I go, this is all over my Facebook feed. Everywhere I go, someone's like, what's the deal with this Yarbo thing? Everyone asks about it, and I just flat out tell them it's awesome. Today I was at my daughter's cheer practice watching her. Well, this thing was at home cutting the grass. You cannot argue that. Guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. If you got any questions, anything specific, leave a comment below and we'll be glad to answer them for you.